What's up? I'm gonna give you guys a little update on the car since I don't think I've said a whole lot about it. I'll do something a little more long form this time. Talk a little bit more about what we're actually doing. So basically this is a 56 Bel Air 4-door sedan that was sitting in our neighbor's yard for the last, as far as we can figure, at least 40 years. Last time it was registered was 87, at least that's the last sticker that's on it, I believe. Yep, 87. So this is what we're working with. I've been working on this for, I don't know, about 8 or 9 months, I think, so far. It's coming along nice. As far as the drivetrain is concerned, this is a 383 Chevrolet built by the good people at Smedding Performance out in Texas. So this is real good shit right here. Makes a lot of power, a lot of torque. I think it made almost, they sent a dyno sheet with it. I have it bouncing around somewhere, but I believe it was almost 490 foot-pounds of torque and about 460 horsepower. So this thing will get down pretty good. Got the long tube headers for it. Still got to take those off and paint them, but that's a future me problem. Also still got to figure out exactly what bolts and doohickeys and widgets I need to square away all the accessories, but once again, future me problem. Not worried about that right now. The suspension is all CPP stuff, so tubular control arms, coilovers. Does have a front sway bar, we just haven't put it on yet, which I'm actually pretty glad we haven't put it on yet because it would be well in the way of working on the engine and other stuff because it sits kind of in this region. But yeah, all new brake system. I went with a Hydro Boost brake setup that's sitting over on the bench over there somewhere. The booster, power steering. So this thing's gonna be cool. Power steering, power brakes, coilovers, all the stuff. All new steering components. We ended up reusing the steering arms. I just sandblasted those and painted them. Those are actually the original steering arms, and we ended up reusing the original pitman arm because it cleared this side header a little bit better than the aftermarket one. Not to say that the aftermarket one wasn't, you know, a fine product, but the original one just happened to clear the header a little bit better. So that's kind of what we're working with up here. Really, mostly what I've been doing is just sanding, and everyone's been kind of jumping in, helping. So first thing I painted was this here floor pan. This is just POR 15. This is semi-gloss POR 15 for those that are curious. I believe they sell semi-gloss and gloss. You'll see the gloss a little bit later on the underneath, but I think the semi-gloss is pretty good for most just chassis related type stuff. You know, you do have to top coat this stuff if you if it's going to be in an area that's going to be exposed to light, because there's no like UV inhibitor in this paint. But for stuff like this, you don't really need to top coat it. Of course, there's going to be a carpet and other stuff on top of this. But yeah, just kind of sanded on it, prepped it out as best I could, and slapped some paint on it. So that was that. I painted the rockers. Yeah, we painted these on a separate day. We painted up to this line and then painted these on a separate day, but whatever, semantics. And then sanded on the firewall and the dash a little bit. So that's the next order of business, really, is I want to paint the dash and the firewall. I have a color picked out. I ordered some paint samples and stuff. It's going to end up being this color here in the center. It came out a little blotchy because I ordered the sample in a spray can and I was kind of impatient with it, but that's going to be the color. This color, really nice color, super mega flaked out, coarse metallic, but it's just a little too light. This color was a little too dark, so this color it is. Ordered a sample of the white just out of curiosity to see how it would look against these colors too, so Then there was another color that I ordered on the back side of this that was a nice color, but I didn't really dig. So yeah, that's gonna be the color. So the next objective is next time I'm home and I can work on this, we'll paint the dash and these front door jambs and the firewall, and then we'll plop the body back on, and the body will actually be like installed, and we can actually bolt it down and start assembling the car. And from there on out, it will be 100% just don't get it right, get it running from that point on. But the outside of the car, I mean, I don't have the doors or the front clip on, so you can't really see a whole much, like a lot of the body panelage, I guess. But outside of the car looks pretty decent and kind of well patinaed. So I'm just gonna leave the outside the way it is for the time being. One thing I didn't notice, I don't know if you can see it, there was a Chevy sticker in that back glass. I think I'm gonna, you can kind of barely see what the outline of it was. I think I'm gonna trace that and maybe paint that on the new back glass when we get it. I think that'd be kind of cool. I've been kind of, you know, throwing stripes and letters at this thing kind of in random spots so far. Probably put some more secret messages on the floor pan before we cover it up. These, I think some guys are asking about the wheels. These Kragers were actually on the car when we picked the car up. Well, actually 3 of them were on the car. One of them was in the back seat, but we ended up taking it out of the back seat and getting a like trailer tire mounted to it just to have something to roll the car around with. So yeah, so we took the best 2 and then I polished them up, and they actually came out looking pretty decent. But this one's actually the best, and I even put some processed blue in the center caps, so they actually look pretty decent. These 2 would probably polish out decent-ish. Well, this one maybe, but the other side is pretty bad, so I didn't really want to bother doing all of them. I bought 2 rally wheels for it, which are over here somewhere. And I painted the insides of them and the back sides. These with just Rebuild Black, you know, the Vice Grip Garage spray paint. Actually came out looking pretty nice. And then I'm gonna paint the fronts of them the body color, and then probably throw like some pinstripes around the like outsides of them, instead of having, you know, instead of getting like trim rings or whatever. And then these are the style wheels that take the little 7-inch center cap, so that'll be cool looking. So for a while it's going to be business in the front, party in the back in the wheel department, but hey, whatever, that's okay. I think it's a look. The Kragers, brand new, you can get them, but they are a little bit more expensive, and I just opted to buy the $100 freaking rally wheels. It was like, whatever, good enough. But try to get you guys underneath the car here. Clapped out rolly chair is probably going to be kind of loud, so I apologize. We started trying to rough in where the fuel line was going to go. This is carbureted, so there's just the one 3/8 fuel line, but we're going to have to mess with that more when the body is installed for the last time. Focus. Okay, there we go. Starting at the front, you see the headers. These are the 8050 Patriot long tube headers, I believe. If you guys are interested, they fit decent, okay-ish. We're running a hydraulic clutch on this, so all of the tabbage and whatever on the frame we had deleted already, so we didn't have a problem with that, you know, the headers clearing that or anything. And then you also have to chop off the bell housing mounts that would live right here and then would bolt to your bell housing. That's how these engines are originally mounted in the back. It's a pretty funky setup by today's standards, actually. So nothing was really in the way. That's why I decided to go with the long tube headers. If you have, you know, a clutch linkage or, you know, more stock application, these headers might not work for you, but they fit pretty decent. This side fits really well. It clears the steering box up there really well. Well, the only thing we did have to do is we shaved down the pitman arm a little bit, because when you turn in the wheel, this wants to get a little close to this, and then we actually had to beat the header a little bit. But other than that, it fits great. So that took some massaging, but nothing that couldn't be resolved. This side, for whatever reason, is way higher than this side, so it actually is like, you know, right there going into the cross member that we added. So I don't know if, I'm sure the exhaust wizards could have some sort of collector that could, you know, go underneath this, but once again, that's a bridge we'll cross at a later date. This is a Lakewood bell housing. Like I said, there's I believe it's a Hydromax throw-out bearing in there. It's a kit you can buy from American Powertrain. For this setup, small block and a Muncie. This is a Muncie 4-speed. This is a wide ratio. Have a Hurst shifter for it, but we had to obviously uninstall it because, funnily enough, there's no hole in this floor yet. For those that don't know, these cars never had floor shifts from the factory, which I found kind of surprising because you see so many of them with floor shifts, but they were all either 3 speeds on the tree, you know, 3 on the tree, as it were, or they were 2-speed power glides. So none of these cars had floor shifts. So if you see one that does, which is a lot of them, it's been a modification that's been added somewhere along the way. So it's kind of cool that this car is so old, but we're still actually we get the honor of cutting the hole in the floor, which is kind of neat in a way. Got all new brake lines in here. We got new body mounts, but I just zip tied these on, you know, so they would stay together for right now, because there's no bolts or whatever. We just put screwdrivers through the holes in like 4 corners. And then, yeah, new brake line, sway bar, strange third member, 31 spline axles, Ford 9-inch housing, 4-link, coilovers. There's kind of all the things going on back here. Even got that, look at that yoke, that's pretty fantastic. All right, 4-wheel disc brakes. Made all new brake lines for the axle housing, of course. Flexi hose down the link, 4-wheel drive style. And then obviously the last thing we just did was we painted the underneath of this thing. This is gloss POR 15, because I went to O'Reilly's to get the paint. They didn't have any semi-gloss, so we opted for the gloss. Actually doesn't look bad. I think it looks pretty decent, and came out pretty good. This was a terrible project, I must admit, doing the underneath of this thing. I went back and forth on buying a rotisserie or a body cart so many times during this project, but at this point I'm glad I didn't, but because, I mean, that stuff is expensive, or you got to make it yourself, and it's kind of just a pain in the ass. But yeah, we ended up just, it was me mostly, just I did as much as I could on the lift here, and then we take the body off every so often and put it on the sawhorses and the gravel outside, and just crawl around with the die grinder and the, you know, DA sander, and just go to absolute town on this thing. The entire underneath of this car was just completely fogged with 70s undercoat, and it was an absolute disaster trying to get all that stuff off. A lot of it was just chipping away. But it's such a gummy, weird substance that like it clogs sandpaper, and it's just such a huge pain in the ass to get off. But luckily that little project is over with, so there you have it on that. This is where the e-brake would go, or the parking brake rather, I guess, would go, is in these holes, and then there'd be this horseshoe thing, and then there's more stuff that goes in there, and I'm probably not going to put any of that back on, because now that we've added all this nonsense, getting the cables routed into, you know, the appropriate receptacles on the calipers would be not impossible, but just more of a conundrum, and it's a 4-speed. I think I'll just put it in gear instead. I am going to order a drive shaft loop for this thing too. I mean, of course, this is a 383, so it's not like the world's most gigantic, thunderous, you know, go 8 seconds in a quarter mile type of car, but I'd rather just have some safety stuff and not need it than, you know, use the cast iron bell housing and no safety loop and just hope for the best, you know. And the bell housing I had was the original bell housing from 1956, which, God bless Chevrolet, would have actually worked with this setup, because they kept the same bolt patterns for, you know, eons. So it would have actually worked. But yeah, I just found this Lakewood on the old Facebook Marketplace, so decided to go with that instead. And then as far as the clutch is concerned, I bought the kit for, you know, the actual throwout bearing part and all that stuff. Then I also bought the under dash hydraulic kit, which is like the master cylinder is basically like attached to a pedal assembly, or the clutch pedal assembly rather, underneath the dash. Then you have a remote reservoir like that you'd mount on the firewall. So that's gonna be cool. And then, yeah, like I said, all new steering stuff. I still gotta paint that Pitman arm. But yeah, all new steering stuff. We did the, those are like the, I don't know, newer aftermarket style motor mounts. You have to drill out some rivets on the frame and stuff to mount those, because originally these cars had the forward engine mounts where it bolts kind of like to the timing cover area of the engine on the front, with like those holes in the cross member there. Once again, kind of a funky setup by today's standards, but hey, it worked back in the day, you know. Well, yeah, that's how it's coming along.